Push her. 2 words. That's all it took. Clover felt hands shove her backward, felt the cliff edge disappear, felt her pregnant belly lurch as she plummeted toward the rocks 300 feet below. Her scream ripped through the storm, raw, desperate, the sound of a mother about to die with her baby still inside her. Blood Moon Cliff had claimed dozens of lives. What was one more Omega? But Elder Thorn didn't know about the Alpha King camped on the cliff face. Didn't know about the vision that had kept him waiting in the rain for 3 days. Didn't know Cyrus was already moving, launching himself toward her with impossible speed. For seconds to catch her. Or watch the future burn. Before we continue, hit subscribe for Seraphina's romance stories if you believe innocent lives matter, Elder Thorn and his kind won't. Drop a comment saying justice for Clover if you're standing against cruelty. Let's see who's really on the right side. 48 hours earlier. Clover knelt in the dirt outside the pack healer's hut, her wrists bound with silver-threaded rope that burned against her skin. The Shadowpine pack had gathered in a circle around her, faces she'd known her whole life, now twisted with fear and disgust. The child was conceived under the blood moon, Elder Thorn announced, his voice carrying across the crowd. Unlike the other elders who wore the traditional black robes, Thorn's were dark green, embroidered with silver runes, marks of his position as keeper of ancient law. Such unions bring only death. We've all heard the prophecies. That's a lie. Clover's voice cracked. I don't even know who the father is. I was attacked during the border raid 6 months ago. I didn't choose this. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. For a moment, Clover saw uncertainty flicker across some faces. But then Thorn's daughter, Mira, stepped forward, the pack's only seer, barely 17 years old with eyes that had gone milky white from her visions. I've seen it, Mira whispered, her voice hollow. The child glows with silver light. She will burn away the old ways, tear down the hierarchy, make Omega and Alpha equal. Our pack will fall to chaos. The crowd's mood shifted instantly from uncertain to hostile. In wolf packs, hierarchy was everything. The idea of an Omega, the lowest rank, birthing something that could upend the natural order was blasphemy. Then it's decided, Thorn said, though his jaw tightened in a way that suggested the decision wasn't as easy as his voice implied. The Omega and her offspring will be given to the spirits at Blood Moon Cliff. 3 nights from now, when the moon rises red. Present, the fall. The last thing Clover saw before the storm swallowed her was Elder Thorn's face, and the single tear tracking down his weathered cheek. At least he feels something, she thought bitterly, then all thoughts vanished as the ravine rushed up to meet her. The impact should have killed her instantly. Should have shattered every bone, should have. Strong arms caught her midair with such force that the wind was knocked from her lungs. Clover's mind couldn't process what was happening. No wolf could move fast enough to catch someone in freefall. No one could have known she was falling. No one could. She looked up into a face carved from midnight and starlight. Cyrus, Alpha King of the Northern Territories, held her suspended 300 feet above the ground, his claws dug into the cliff face with such precision that they barely disturbed the stone. His long black hair was plastered to his face from the rain, and his eyes, those impossible gold eyes, studied her with an intensity that made her forget she was supposed to be dying. Breathe, he commanded, his voice a low rumble that vibrated through her chest. I'm in labor, Clover managed between gasps. The baby. I know. His grip on her tightened as another contraction seized her body. Hold on to me. We're not going up. What? Cyrus launched himself downward, using the cliff face like a ladder, his movements fluid and controlled even while carrying her full weight. They descended in heart-stopping leaps, each landing precise, each movement calculated. Within minutes, they reached a cave opening carved into the cliff face, hidden from above, accessible only to someone who knew it was there. He laid her gently on a bed of dried moss and furs that looked recently placed, as if he'd been preparing this space. A fire was already burning in a stone pit, casting dancing shadows across the cave walls. "You knew," Clover gasped as another contraction hit. "You were waiting. Your daughter called to me 3 nights ago." Cyrus knelt beside her, his hands surprisingly gentle as he checked her pulse. "In my dreams, I saw a silver light falling from the sky. I've been camped here since yesterday." "That's impossible," Clover's words cut off in a scream as her water broke. "The baby's coming now," Cyrus said, his voice steady. "I need you to trust me. I don't even know you." "No," he agreed, moving to position himself between her legs with the practiced ease of someone who'd done this before. "But your daughter knows me. And I know her. That's enough." Clover had no choice but to believe him. The contractions were coming faster now, her body taking over, pushing, demanding. She'd imagined giving birth in many ways, never like this, in a cave, with a strange Alpha King as her midwife, while the pack that condemned her stood above thinking she was dead. "Push," Cyrus commanded, and something in his voice made her body obey. The pain was blinding, all-consuming, a fire that burned away everything except the need to bring her daughter into the world. She screamed, clutching at the furs beneath her, and Cyrus's voice cut through the agony like an anchor. "Again. She's almost here." One more push, one more scream that echoed off the cave walls, and then silence. For one terrible moment, Clover's heart stopped. But then a cry pierced the air, strong, healthy, absolutely perfect. Cyrus lifted the infant, his massive hands cradling her with impossible gentleness. The baby's skin was pale like Clover's, but her hair was pure silver, and when her eyes opened, they glowed with the same golden light as Cyrus's own. "Hello, little prophet," he murmured, then looked up at Clover with an expression she couldn't name. "She's magnificent." He cleaned the baby with warm water from a flask, then wrapped her in a soft cloth before placing her in Clover's arms. The moment her daughter's skin touched hers, Clover felt it, a surge of power so intense it made her gasp. The baby wasn't just special. She was something else entirely. "What is she?" Clover whispered. "The beginning of everything," Cyrus said. "And I think she just chose her own name." Clover looked down. The baby's tiny hand had closed around her finger, and where they touched, a faint silver glow pulsed in time with both their heartbeats. In her mind, clear as spoken words, Clover heard a name. Aurora. If you can't stand what Elder Thorn did to an innocent mother and baby, smash that like button. Comment "Protect the innocent" if you believe Clover deserved better. Only the cruel stay silent. Cyrus stood at the cave entrance, watching the storm begin to ease while Clover slept with Aurora nestled against her chest. He hadn't told her the full truth yet, hadn't explained why an Alpha King would camp for days on a cliff waiting for a falling Omega. The dreams had started 3 months ago. Every night, the same vision, a silver light falling from the sky, a voice calling his name, and a bone-deep certainty that if he didn't catch what was falling, his entire kingdom would crumble. Cyrus had ruled the Northern Territories for 12 years, ever since his father's assassination when he was barely 23. He'd inherited a kingdom on the brink of civil war, rival packs circling like vultures, and a reputation for being ruthless that he'd earned through necessity, not choice. But the dreams had shown him something different. A future where the old hierarchies fell away, where Omega and Alpha could stand as equals, where power came not from dominance but from unity. His advisors thought he was losing his mind when he'd announced he was leaving the capital to chase a vision. His beta, Cade, had practically begged him to reconsider. "You can't leave now," Cade had argued. "The Eastern packs are already questioning your authority. If they find out you're gone, they'll see it as weakness." But Cyrus had gone anyway, because the voice in his dreams carried a weight he couldn't ignore. And now, looking at the sleeping mother and child, he understood why. Aurora stirred, her golden eyes blinking open. She should have been crying, newborns always cried, but instead, she simply stared at him with an awareness that was deeply unsettling. Then, without warning, images flooded Cyrus's mind. He saw himself standing in a burning throne room, surrounded by enemies. Saw Clover beside him, dressed in armor instead of robes, a blade in her hand. Saw Aurora as a young woman, her silver hair flowing as she stood before a gathering of all the packs, speaking words that made Alphas kneel and Omegas stand tall. The vision ended as abruptly as it began, leaving Cyrus breathless. "She's showing you the future," Clover's voice made him turn. She was awake, watching him with those startling blue eyes. "Isn't she?" "How did you know?" "Because she just showed me too." Clover sat up slowly, wincing. "I saw you fighting to protect us. Saw myself becoming someone I don't recognize. Saw her changing everything." Cyrus moved back to sit across from them, his expression grave. "The seer was right. Your daughter will tear down the old ways. But not through destruction, through transformation." "And you're okay with that?" Clover asked carefully. "You're an Alpha King. Your power depends on the hierarchy." "My power depends on keeping my people safe," Cyrus corrected. "And I've seen what happens when we cling to the old ways. Omegas treated as disposable. Alphas expected to be emotionless weapons. Children like Aurora killed before they can even draw breath because we're too afraid of change." He met her gaze directly. "I won't lie to you, Clover. Taking you and Aurora back to my kingdom will put all of us in danger. There are packs within my territory who'll see her as a threat. There are alphas on my council who still believe Omegas shouldn't speak in public, let alone challenge tradition. Then why take us at all?" Clover's voice was quiet but steady. "You could leave us here, claim you never found us." "I could," Cyrus agreed. "But then I'd be as much of a coward as the ones who threw you off that cliff." Clover was silent for a long moment, studying his face. "You really believe she's worth the risk?" "I believe both of you are." Cyrus stood, offering her his hand. "I'm not asking you to trust me. I'm not even asking you to like me. But I am asking you to let me keep you alive long enough to see what Aurora becomes." Clover looked down at her daughter, who stared back with those unnervingly aware golden eyes. Then she took Cyrus's hand. "Okay," she said. "But I need to know one thing first." "What?" "When you said Aurora called to you, was it really her? Or was it something else using her as bait?" The question was smart, suspicious, exactly what he would have asked in her position. Cyrus respected her more for asking it. "I don't know," he admitted. "But either way, I'm already committed. So we'd better hope it was her." Over the next 2 days, they remained in the cave while Clover recovered from the birth. Cyrus hunted in the early mornings, returning with fresh game that he cooked over the fire. He was surprisingly good at it, not the awkward bachelor meals she'd expected from a king, but proper food that actually tasted good. "Where did you learn to cook?" she asked on the second evening, watching him season a rabbit with herbs he'd gathered from the cliff face. "My mother," Cyrus said, his voice careful in the way that suggested the memory was both precious and painful. "She believed every wolf should know how to survive on their own, regardless of rank. My father thought it was beneath an alpha to cook. They fought about it constantly." "Who won?" "Neither. She died before I could decide which of them was right." He turned the spit, not meeting her eyes. "But I kept cooking. Figured if it mattered enough for them to fight over, it mattered enough to remember." Clover felt something shift in her chest. This wasn't the ruthless Alpha King from the stories, the one who'd supposedly killed his own uncle to secure his throne, who executed traitors without trial, who terrified even his allies. "The stories about you," she said carefully. "How much of them are true?" "Which stories?" "That you killed your Uncle Roan." That you left his body on the steps of the council hall as a warning. Cyrus was quiet for so long she thought he wouldn't answer. Then, all of it's true. Except the part where I did it without trial. He finally looked at her, and his eyes held something dark and complicated. Roan orchestrated my father's assassination. Planted evidence that made it look like the Eastern Pax were responsible, hoping to start a war that would let him seize power in the chaos. By the time I discovered the truth, he'd already poisoned half my council and was planning to kill me during my coronation. So you executed him. I challenged him to single combat in front of every alpha in the territory. Gave him a warrior's death instead of a traitor's hanging. Cyrus's jaw tightened. And then yes, I left his body on the council steps. Because I needed everyone to understand that I knew what he'd done, and that anyone who tried the same would end up the same way. That's horrifying, Clover said quietly. Yes, Cyrus agreed. It was. But it worked. The next 12 years have been the most peaceful in Northern Territory history. Aurora chose that moment to make a small sound, not quite a cry, more like a comment. They both looked at her, and Clover could have sworn the baby looked disapproving. She doesn't like that story, Clover said, almost amused. Good, Cyrus replied. She shouldn't. Violence should never be comfortable, even when it's necessary. Hit subscribe to Seraphina's romance stories if you believe in second chances. People like Elder Thorn don't. Comment everyone deserves protection if you think Clover and Aurora deserve safety. Don't let the cruel control the narrative. On the third day, Cyrus declared Clover strong enough to travel. He'd fashioned a sling from his cloak that allowed her to carry Aurora against her chest while keeping her hands free, and he'd mapped out a route that would keep them away from Shadowpine territory. We'll move at night, he explained, packing the last of their supplies. My beta Cade knows to expect me on the eastern road. He'll have transport waiting. And if someone from Shadowpine spots us? They won't recognize you, Cyrus said, producing a dark cloak with a deep hood. Put this on. You'll look like one of my guards. But as they prepared to leave the cave, Aurora began to glow, that same silver light from the visions, pulsing stronger with each passing second. Clover gasped as images flooded her mind again. This time, she saw Elder Thorn standing in the pack house, arguing with other elders. Saw Mira, the young seer, collapsing during a vision. Saw something dark and writhing beneath Shadowpine territory, something ancient waking up. Cyrus, Clover breathed. Something's wrong in Shadowpine. Aurora's showing me. I see it too. His voice was grim. The question is, do we care? They tried to kill me. Yes. They wanted my daughter dead. Yes. So why does Aurora want us to help them? Cyrus looked at the glowing infant, then at Clover. Because she's showing us what we need to know, not what we want to know. Whatever's happening in Shadowpine, it won't stay contained there. Clover wanted to argue. Wanted to say she didn't owe those people anything. But Aurora's light pulsed again, and this time the vision was clearer. Shadowpine territory, overrun by dark creatures that looked like wolves but weren't, corrupted, twisted things with empty eyes. The corruption spreading to neighboring packs. Eventually reaching Cyrus's kingdom. Unless someone stopped it at the source. We have to go back, Clover said, hating every word. No, Cyrus corrected. I have to go back. You and Aurora will continue to the rendezvous point. Cade will. Absolutely not. Clover stood, clutching Aurora closer. You think I'm letting you walk into Shadowpine alone? The pack that just tried to kill me? I'm not asking permission. And I'm not giving you a choice. Aurora showed us both those visions. That means we're both supposed to be there. They stared at each other, neither backing down. Finally, Cyrus's mouth twitched into something that might have been respect. "You're either very brave or very stupid." "I just gave birth in a cave and survived being thrown off a cliff," Clover shot back. "I'm way past caring which one it is." They reached Shadowpine territory just before dawn. The pack scent was off, tainted with something that made Clover's wolf recoil in disgust. Cyrus noticed it too, his hand moving to the blade at his hip. "Stay behind me," he ordered. "And if I tell you to run?" "I won't." "Clover." "I won't," she repeated firmly. "We do this together or not at all." The pack house came into view, and what they saw made them both freeze. The building was surrounded by those corrupted wolf creatures from the vision, dozens of them pacing in circles. Inside, Clover could hear screaming. "They're trapped," she whispered. "And we're outnumbered 20-1. Cyrus's eyes scanned the scene, calculating. "I need you to do something for me." "What?" "Trust that Aurora knows what she's doing." Before Clover could ask what he meant, Cyrus strode directly toward the corrupted wolves, making no attempt at stealth. The creature's head snapped toward him in perfect unison. Then, as one, they charged. Cyrus met them with a roar that shook the trees. He shifted mid-leap, his human form exploding into his wolf, massive, midnight black, with those same golden eyes now burning like twin suns. He tore through the first wave of creatures with brutal efficiency, but more kept coming. Aurora's light intensified, and suddenly Clover understood. "You want me to fight," she whispered to her daughter. "But I'm an Omega." "I'm not." The baby's eyes met hers, and Clover felt it, a surge of power unlike anything she'd experienced. Her Omega wolf, which had always been small and weak, suddenly felt different. Stronger. Evolved. "This is insane," Clover muttered, then carefully placed Aurora in a protected hollow in a nearby tree. "Stay here, baby. Mommy's about to do something really stupid." She shifted, expecting her usual small brown wolf. Instead, what emerged was something new, larger than before, her fur now shot through with silver strands that seemed to glow with their own light. And when she howled, every corrupted creature in the clearing flinched. Cyrus's wolf turned to stare at her, clearly shocked. But there was no time for explanations. Clover launched herself into the fight, and together they became a force of nature, the Alpha King and the Omega who should have been impossible. They fought until the sun rose, until the last corrupted creature fell. And when Cyrus finally shifted back to human form, covered in blood and breathing hard, he looked at Clover with undisguised awe. "What are you?" he demanded. "I don't know," Clover admitted. "But I think Aurora just changed the rules." If you believe Omega wolves deserve respect, drop a like. Comment strength has no rank if you're tired of hierarchy deciding worth. Only the weak-minded will ignore this. The pack house doors burst open, and Elder Thorn stumbled out, followed by other pack members. They all froze when they saw Clover and Cyrus standing among the fallen corrupted wolves. "Impossible," Thorn breathed. "You're dead. I saw you fall." "And I saw you cry about it," Clover cut him off, her voice cold. "Which was real, Thorn? The terror, or the push?" "Both," a new voice said. Mira stepped forward, the young seer's milky eyes somehow seeing more than anyone else. "Everything's been both, from the beginning." "Explain," Cyrus commanded, and the weight of his authority made even Thorn flinch. Myra's voice shook as she spoke. 3 months ago, I had a vision. I saw the Blood Moon child being born, saw her changing everything. But I also saw something else, a darkness beneath our territory, sleeping for centuries, waiting for the right moment to wake. And the vision told me that the Blood Moon child would be its key." "You lied," Clover said, pieces clicking together. "You said Aurora would destroy the pack through chaos. But that wasn't the real vision, was it?" No. Tears streamed down Myra's face. The real vision said the Blood Moon Child would wake the darkness, unless she was born outside Shadowpine territory. If she was born here, the darkness would use her power as an anchor. But if she was born elsewhere, she'd be free of its influence, Cyrus finished, understanding dawning. You had Clover thrown off the cliff on purpose. We tried to warn her. Mira sobbed. We tried to make her leave voluntarily, but she wouldn't go. She kept saying Shadowpine was her home, that she'd face whatever came. And the visions were getting worse. I could feel the darkness stirring, drawn to the baby's power. We ran out of time. Thorn stepped forward, and for the first time, Clover saw him clearly, not as the monster who'd condemned her, but as an old man carrying an impossible weight. I volunteered to be the one to push you, he said quietly. Because I knew I'd be strong enough to live with the guilt. I told myself that if I cried, if I made it hurt, then it wasn't truly evil. That I was sacrificing one life to save hundreds. You were saving yourself, Clover spat. From having to make the hard choice. You're right. Thorn's voice cracked. I was a coward. I should have told you the truth, should have found another way. But I was so afraid of the darkness waking, so terrified of losing everything, he fell to his knees. I'm sorry. It doesn't change what I did, but I'm sorry. Clover stood over him, her whole body shaking with rage and grief and the terrible understanding that he'd actually been trying to save her, in his own twisted way. You broke me, she said softly. You took away my home, my pack, everything I knew. You made me believe I was cursed. I know. And now you want forgiveness? No, Thorn said. I want justice. Whatever you deem fair. Clover looked at Cyrus, who'd been watching the exchange with unreadable eyes. What would you do, as Alpha King? Exile, Cyrus said without hesitation. He orchestrated the attempted murder of a pack member. By Northern Territory law, that's grounds for permanent banishment. And what does Shadowpine law say? Clover asked Mira. Death, the young seer whispered. For anyone who harms a pregnant Omega. The clearing fell silent. Everyone waited for Clover's judgment, the Omega who should have had no voice, suddenly holding the power to decide an elder's fate. I choose exile, Clover finally said. But not for you, Thorn. Then who? Me. She turned to face the gathered pack. I'm exiling myself from Shadowpine. I'm taking Aurora and leaving with Cyrus, and I'm never coming back. You'll have to live with what you did, Thorn. Every day, knowing you're alive because the woman you tried to kill showed you more mercy than you showed her. It was a punishment worse than death, and everyone knew it. Thorn's face crumpled, but he didn't protest. But there's a condition, Clover continued. The darkness that was sleeping under Shadowpine, Aurora's power woke it when she was born in that cave. Those corrupted wolves we just fought? They're only the beginning. This pack can't survive what's coming alone. What are you suggesting? Cyrus asked, though his expression said he already knew. Shadowpine joins the Northern Territories, Clover said. As a protectorate under your rule. You get the resources to fight the darkness, they get protection from an Alpha King who actually keeps his people safe. Thorn looked up, shocked. You'd really advocate for us? After everything? I'm not doing it for you, Clover said coldly. I'm doing it because Aurora showed me what happens if I don't. And I won't let innocent people die just because their leaders are cowards. Cyrus stepped forward, his presence commanding everyone's attention. If Shadowpine accepts protectorate status, you'll be bound by Northern Territory law. That means Omega rights, equal voice in pack decisions, and zero tolerance for hierarchy abuse. Are you prepared for that kind of change? The pack members looked at each other, uncertain. Then Mira spoke up, her milky eyes somehow finding Clover in the crowd. "We accept," she said. "And I'll tell you why, because I just had another vision. I saw Clover standing beside you, Cyrus, as your queen. I saw Aurora and a brother I haven't met yet, changing the world. I saw all the packs united under one rule, with Omega and Alpha truly equal. And I saw this pack thriving under that new order, not destroyed by it." "You saw me as queen?" Clover's voice was faint. "Yes," Mira said simply. "And before you argue, I should mention, so did Aurora. Ask her yourself." Clover looked down at her daughter, who'd been remarkably quiet throughout the whole confrontation. Aurora's golden eyes stared back, and once again, images flooded Clover's mind. Her, standing beside Cyrus in a throne room. Her, wearing armor and leading wolves into battle. Her, holding a baby boy with Cyrus's dark hair. Her, transforming from victim to survivor to warrior to queen. "No pressure," Cyrus murmured beside her, his voice holding a hint of dark humor. "Shut up," Clover said, but there was no heat in it. "I need time to think about this." "Take all the time you need," Cyrus replied. "But fair warning, if Aurora's visions are anything like the ones I've been having, we're already running on borrowed time." Comment mercy over vengeance if you respect what Clover did. Hit that like if you believe in second chances, but only for those who truly earn them. The unforgiving won't engage. The journey to the northern capital took 5 days. Cyrus's beta, Cade, met them on the eastern road with an armed escort, medical supplies, and a look of profound relief when he saw his king alive. "You're insane," Cade said by way of greeting. "You know that, right?" Frequently reminded, Cyrus replied. "Cade, this is Clover and Aurora. They'll be staying in the palace." Cade's eyes widened as he took in the Omega holding a glowing infant. "The Blood Moon child? She's real?" "She's real, she's powerful, and she's already rewritten half my plans for the kingdom," Cyrus said dryly. "Prepare the western wing. And send word to the council, we're calling an emergency session." "About what?" "About everything." The northern capital was nothing like Shadowpine. Where Clover's old pack had been rural and isolated, Cyrus's kingdom sprawled across a valley, with stone buildings, paved roads, and more wolves than Clover had ever seen in one place. And they all stopped to stare as she passed, holding the glowing baby. "They're afraid," Clover murmured. "They're curious," Cyrus corrected. "There's a difference." But he was wrong. As they entered the palace grounds, Clover could hear whispers following them like shadows. Omega. Blood Moon. Curse. Danger. The palace itself was magnificent, carved from black stone, with silver veins running through the walls that seemed to glow in the moonlight. But it was also cold, imposing, exactly what she'd expect from a king with Cyrus's reputation. A woman met them in the entrance hall, mid-50s, with silver-streaked hair and the bearing of someone who answered to no one. She looked Clover up and down with sharp green eyes, then snorted. "So you're the one who has my Alpha running around like a lovesick pup." "Vera," Cyrus said warningly. "What?" "It's true." Vera turned to Clover. "I'm Vera, head of household and the only one in this palace with any common sense. You look exhausted. Come on, I'll show you to your rooms." Clover glanced at Cyrus, who nodded. "Go. I have council business to handle. Vera will take care of you." As they walked through the palace corridors, Vera kept up a running commentary. "Don't mind the staff staring. They're just shocked to see Cyrus bring home a woman. He's been married to his crown for 12 years. "We're not," Clover started. "Not yet," Vera interrupted. "But Aurora seems to have other plans, doesn't she?" "How do you know about Aurora's visions?" "Because I raised Cyrus from a pup," and I've seen that look in his eyes before, the one that says he's already decided his future and he's just waiting for the rest of the world to catch up. Vera pushed open a door to reveal a suite of rooms that was larger than Clover's entire house in Shadowpine. These are yours. Bedroom through there, nursery attached, bathroom to the left. I'll have food sent up. This is too much. Nonsense. You're the Blood Moon child's mother. People are going to be watching your every move. Better to look the part. Vera softened slightly. Besides, you deserve a soft bed after everything you've been through. Don't argue with me. I'm old and I bite. That night, Clover stood on her balcony, looking out over the sleeping capital. Aurora was peaceful in her crib, her silver glow casting gentle light across the nursery. For the first time in months, Clover felt safe enough to let herself think about what came next. A knock at the door made her turn. Cyrus stood in the doorway, still in his council clothes but looking tired. "Did I wake you?" he asked. "I wasn't sleeping." "Come in." He entered, moving to stand beside her at the railing. For a long moment, they just stood there in comfortable silence. "The council wants to meet Aurora," Cyrus finally said. "Tomorrow." They're divided about what her presence means. Divided as in half want to help her, half want to kill her? Divided as in half want to use her power for political gain, half are terrified of what she represents. He glanced at her. "I won't force you to attend. But it would send a strong message if you were there." "What kind of message?" "That you're not afraid of them. That Aurora isn't a weapon to be wielded or a threat to be eliminated. That you're both under my protection." He paused. "And that I trust you." "Do you?" Clover asked quietly. "Trust me? We've known each other less than a week." "No," Cyrus admitted. "But I'm choosing to anyway. Aurora seems certain about our future together. I figure I should at least try to see what she sees." Clover turned to face him fully. "Myra's vision showed me as your queen. Did Aurora show you the same thing?" "Yes. And I think we should take it one day at a time," Cyrus said carefully. "Being queen isn't just about wearing a crown, Clover. It's about standing beside someone while the world tries to tear you both apart. It's about making impossible choices and living with the consequences. It's about being strong enough not to break," Clover finished. "I know. I've already lived that life. Just with a different title." They looked at each other, and something passed between them, not love, not yet, but understanding. Recognition. "Tell me about the council," Clover said. "If I'm walking into their den tomorrow, I should know who wants me dead." Cyrus's mouth twitched. Direct. "I like it." He spent the next hour describing the council members, 5 alphas, each representing different regions of the Northern Territories. There was Aldrich, the military commander who valued strength above all. Elena, the territory's best healer and the only one who might actually welcome Aurora's power. Gregor, a political opportunist who'd support whichever side seemed strongest. And twins Reyna and Darian, who controlled trade routes and had been pushing for Omega rights laws long before Cyrus met Clover. "They sound exhausting," Clover said when he finished. "They are. But they're also what keeps the kingdom stable. Every voice gets heard, even the ones I disagree with. Even Gregor, who you clearly can't stand?" "Especially Gregor," Cyrus said. "Because the day I start silencing voices I don't like is the day I become a tyrant instead of a king." Clover studied his face in the moonlight. "You're nothing like the stories say." "I'm exactly like the stories say," Cyrus corrected. "I just have reasons for it." The council meeting the next day was every bit as intense as Cyrus had warned. Clover entered the chamber with Aurora in her arms, Cyrus at her side, and found herself facing 5 alphas who looked at her with everything from curiosity to barely concealed hostility. Aldrich spoke first. "So this is the Blood Moon child. Doesn't look like much." "She's a week old," Clover said coolly. "Give her time." "Time to what? Destroy the pack hierarchy as the prophecies claim?" "The prophecies are open to interpretation," Elena interjected. "I've been studying the texts. Tear down the old ways could mean reform, not destruction. Or it could mean exactly what it says," Gregor added, leaning back in his chair. "The question is whether we're willing to risk our entire social structure on a child's potential." "She's already proven her worth," Cyrus said. "Without her visions, Shadowpine would have been overrun by corrupted wolves, and that corruption would have spread here. Aurora warned us in time to stop it. By forcing Clover to fight," Reina pointed out. "An Omega shouldn't be able to fight like that. Yet Clover tore through corrupted wolves like they were nothing. How do we know Aurora's power isn't corrupting her too?" The room fell silent. Clover felt her throat tighten, felt the old shame trying to surface, the voice that said Omegas were weak, that strength in an Omega was wrong, that she was wrong. Then Aurora's light pulsed, and Clover felt something shift inside her. Not corruption. Evolution. "Aurora didn't corrupt me," Clover said clearly. "She revealed what I could be when I wasn't being held back by other people's expectations. Yes, I'm an Omega. And yes, I fought and won. Those two things aren't contradictory, you just never gave Omegas a chance to prove it before." "Dangerous thinking," Aldrich muttered. "Necessary thinking," Darian countered. "If even half of what the Blood Moon prophecies say is true, the old ways are ending whether we like it or not. We can adapt or be left behind. And if adapting means losing everything that makes us who we are?" Gregor challenged. "Then we were already lost," Cyrus said quietly. His voice carried absolute authority. "I've ruled for 12 years by maintaining hierarchy, by being the kind of king people fear to cross. And it's kept us stable. But stability isn't the same as thriving. How many talented wolves have we wasted because they were born Omega? How many potential solutions have we missed because we only listened to alpha voices?" "You're saying Aurora's arrival is an opportunity," Elena said thoughtfully. "I'm saying Aurora's arrival is inevitable," Cyrus corrected. "The real question is whether we embrace what she represents or fight it until it destroys us." The council debated for hours. Clover sat through it all, holding Aurora, listening to 5 alphas argue about her daughter's right to exist. Finally, as the sun began to set, Cyrus called for a vote. "All in favor of granting Aurora full protection as a citizen of the Northern Territories, with the understanding that her powers will be studied but never exploited?" Elena and the twins voted immediately. After a long pause, Aldrich joined them. Gregor abstained. 4-0, Cyrus said. "The motion passes. Aurora is under my protection, and anyone who threatens her answers to me personally." 3 months passed. Clover settled into palace life with surprising ease, though she never forgot where she came from. She attended council meetings, not as a silent observer but as an active voice. She trained with the warriors, proving that an Omega could hold her own in combat. And she watched Aurora grow, developing powers that left even Elena speechless. The darkness from Shadowpine was contained, though Cyrus stationed permanent guards at the site. Mira visited twice, bringing updates and increasingly optimistic visions of the future. And slowly, carefully, Clover and Cyrus began to build something that looked like a life together. It started small, shared meals, late-night conversations, training sessions where he'd correct her form and she'd mock his overcomplicated techniques. But gradually, it became more. The way he'd check on her first thing every morning. The way she'd seek him out when Aurora had a new vision. The way they'd stand together on the balcony, watching the sun set over the capital, not needing words. Mira was right, Cyrus said one evening, Aurora asleep in Clover's arms. About the future. About us. We're not married yet, Clover pointed out. Not yet, he agreed, then pulled out a small box. Inside was a ring, simple silver band with a stone that glowed the same color as Aurora's light. But I'd like to be. Eventually. When you're ready. Clover stared at the ring, then at him. That's possibly the worst proposal I've ever heard. I know, Cyrus said, completely unashamed. But I'm not proposing out of prophecy or duty. I'm asking because I want to. Because in 3 months, you've become someone I trust more than anyone. Because I think we could build something real together, even without visions telling us to. And if I say yes? Then we take it slow. Figure out how to be partners before we're king and queen. Let Aurora grow up knowing her parents chose each other, not that fate forced them together. Clover thought about Elder Thorn, about being thrown off a cliff, about everything she'd survived to reach this moment. Then she thought about the future Aurora kept showing her, not perfect, but filled with purpose and partnership and the kind of love that came from choosing to stay, day after day. Yes, she said. Eventually. When I'm ready. Cyrus smiled, a real smile, rare and genuine. Eventually works for me. Aurora stirred, and both of them looked down as her golden eyes opened. In their minds, she sent them one final vision, not of war or prophecy or destiny, but of them, 3 months from now, standing before the council, making their choice official. And in Aurora's eyes, approval and love that transcended her young age. Our daughter is a romantic, Clover said dryly. Our daughter is a menace, Cyrus corrected. But she's ours. And in that moment, standing on a balcony in the northern capital, holding a child that had once been condemned to death, Clover finally felt something she hadn't in months. Hope. The future stretched before them, uncertain, dangerous, full of challenges that would test everything they were building. But they'd face it together. The Alpha King who'd learned that strength could wear many faces. The Omega who'd discovered her own power. And the Blood Moon child who'd been thrown from a cliff and caught by destiny. The old ways weren't gone. But they were changing. And maybe, just maybe, that was exactly as it should be. If this story proved that Omega wolves deserve respect, hit that subscribe button for Seraphina's romance stories. People like Elder Thorn don't want you to. Comment strength knows no rank if you believe in second chances and new beginnings. Drop a like if you're ready to see what happens when Aurora grows up and starts changing the world for real. Only those afraid of change will scroll past. Don't be one of them.